Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this past week we're hearing more about iOS 18 design changes, iPhone 16, as well as that upcoming March Apple event. This is your Apple News Update for the week of February 26th, 2024. Now, had Steve Jobs been alive still, he would hit 69 years old this past Saturday. So that's his birthday, February 24th, and if he was still around, it's hard to believe, but he'd be 69 years old. AT&T had a very large outage this past weekend, and those affected actually are getting a $5 credit. While that may not sound like a whole lot, it means AT&T loses millions of dollars for that day as they have millions of customers. So $5 for every customer that was out, it seems that they're getting a refund for anyone that was experiencing that. Now, Apple explores different designs and concepts just like any other company, and according to a report obtained by MacRumors, Apple actually explored a top bar instead of a notch that eventually became the dynamic island. So some concepts, as you can see here, show that maybe the top would have just been sort of blacked out. It reminds me a little bit of Palm Pre and sort of just explored overall designs. I'm glad they went with the design they did. I actually didn't mind the notch. The dynamic island is better. I just wish they would utilize it a little bit more. Now, Apple will be introducing RCS messaging as part of iMessage upgrades in the future, and we're probably going to see that with iOS 18. But we thought it was being introduced because of the EU, but apparently that may not be the reason, according to John Gruber on the Daring Fireball blog. He suggests it was more likely due to complying with Chinese law. So it seems that maybe Apple didn't want to actually add it, but in order to comply with other laws, they did. It makes sense. There's not really a reason they shouldn't include RCS, as they're still using outdated MMS. So bringing that forward to the future makes a lot of sense either way. With iOS 17.4, Apple is adding sideloading in the EU, but removing web apps in the EU, as Apple says it needs to comply with those laws. This is actually bringing more and more attention to them, where the EU may try and force Apple to bring those features back, and this is according to the Financial Times. So being able to use those web apps, some people don't care about them, but removing features to comply with new features is something I think will bring a lot of scrutiny to Apple. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments below. Now, Apple Arcade has been around for a little while and may be getting some sort of revamp in the future. And this is according to mobilegamer.biz. Apple may be working to relaunch it or change the service as a whole, as there's a lot of canceled projects and declining developer payouts. It seems developers aren't really happy with the service, as it may not be paying them enough to actually justify using it or developing for it. And maybe they'll need to revamp this a little bit to allow for more and more games to show up. So maybe we'll see more with Vision Pro and other things, but it seems to be very slow going at this point. Apple Vision Pro has been out for a couple of weeks, and it seems more and more people are experiencing a crack down the center of it just from using it. Not dropping it, but you'll see one here with the photo where it's actually straight down the middle. They claim they haven't dropped it, and we're seeing more and more of this, but we don't know how widespread this is, or if it's just a few people with a few different defects. Either way, it looks like Apple's giving them a hard time in replacing it. However, if it's seen more widespread, I definitely think you'll see some sort of fee where they may replace it for you, or just replace it for free, hopefully, if it is a defect. Also, a recent report from Omdia shows that they believe Apple Vision Pro costs about $1,500 to make. This makes sense, as Apple typically charges 2 to 3 times the production cost for their retail prices. So it makes sense that it's probably around $1,500 and they're charging $3,500. Now, I showed in a video a couple weeks ago that Apple actually has its own case for the Apple Vision Pro, but it's pretty bulky, and Waterfield Design was nice enough to send along their new Shield case for Apple Vision Pro. This case is much smaller and accommodates all of the different things from your Vision Pro within the case itself. Within the pouch that's included, there's even a space for lenses, so if you want to keep those safe and you don't need them all the time or swap them out, you can. And then also there's room in this pouch to put the different straps that you want to carry with it and much more. You'll see it's made by Waterfield in San Francisco, and it's always high quality products from them. This is not a sponsored video, but they were nice enough to send it along. So let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Now, as far as weekly deals this week, AirPods Pro 2 are still on sale, so if you want to pick these up, they're typically around $179.99. We also have the Apple Pencil 2 that's down to $79, so if you've been looking to pick one of these up, that's a pretty reasonable price, as well as Beats Studio Pro continue to be on sale for over $150 off, as well as updates for Apple Watch Series 9, Apple Watch Ultra 2, iPads, and much more. Lots of things are on sale right now, sold directly by Apple, but on different websites, such as Amazon and others. others. I'll link them all in the description if you want to check them out. The new app installation verification screen that pops up in the EU when you go to install an app, whether it's from the App Store or from Spotlight Search, is apparently a bug and will be fixed before its release. This was reported by Joe Rosenthal, who confirmed Apple told him that it was a bug and would be fixed. So this, I thought, was sort of a safeguard if you were in the EU, just to let you know to verify the information before installing. I thought it was a feature, but it appears it's going to be resolved. Now, iOS 17.4 is expected as soon as tomorrow with the release candidate, and if we go to our calendar here, typically on a Tuesday or Wednesday, Apple will release a new update. I would expect iOS 17.4 RC then, or release candidate. That will be the final version pushed to developers and public beta testers before it's released to the public. If there's no bugs with it, that will be the final version. Then we can expect a final release probably around March 4th. That way Apple can comply with the EU regulations with sideloading and more. So I would expect it sometime in early March for that update to release to the public. Now, iOS 18 is expected to get some visual overhauls this year. Earlier on, there was a rumor that suggested it would transform to look more like visionOS, but in this week's Power On newsletter, Mark Gurman said to expect some similar design elements as visionOS, but not a total overhaul to mirror visionOS. So it seems that Apple's going to change some things. I don't think that will be round icons, but maybe change some things with more depth, maybe changes to the control center, maybe more overall sort of texture to different icons and much more. Hopefully we see that. I'm not a huge fan of flat design, and I would love to see them change that. Also, the new AI features that are expected with iOS 18 are expected to come for Siri and have a positive effect in sales in China, where AI is a priority apparently. So Apple has been sort of slipping behind in China, and AI may help them revive some of their sales there. Now that's something I look forward to, but how Apple implements it is hard to say. If it's just Siri or something else, or maybe it will help you write different messages, emails, and much more. We'll have to wait and see. Mark Gurman also said that Apple is working on changing macOS as well, but not until 2025 or 2026. They already have updated icons and more, and I would hope Apple would match those on the iOS side and then match it to macOS as well. So at this point, we don't really know what they're going to do, but it seems like we're going to get updates to iOS 18 first, and then next year, macOS will get an overhaul at this point. Now, iPhone 16 is expected to get a few new upgrades this year, and a new upgrade is to the microphones. This time around, we're hearing the microphones could be enhanced so that they better understand you to work better with those new AI features. It makes sense that they would update these if they needed to do that to better understand you, and this is according to analyst Jeff Poo. He says to expect them to upgrade those specifically for that reason. Also, TrendForce released a report today stating that iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max will both benefit from the 5x optical zoom camera. We've heard this for a while, but it seems to be confirmed by more and more people at this point. Now, last week we were told that Apple's working on a folding phone, maybe like the Pixel or maybe the Z Flip, and that they delayed it due to durability issues. A day or so later, DigiTimes actually reported that Apple is still working on a foldable iPhone, but that the first device would not be a phone, but rather maybe a tablet or something else. So I think maybe an iPad mini-like device or something along those lines. I do like some of the folding designs like this Pixel, but it's not something that I think brings any practicality as it doubles its thickness. So let me know what you think of folding phones below. I know many of you don't seem to understand the point of them. Some people really like them, so I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Now, we're waiting for Apple to announce a March Apple event. Typically, we're expecting this probably toward the end of the month, but we're expecting new products there, such as iPads and MacBook Air updates. The iPad Pro is expected to keep the 11-inch size, and the 12.9-inch is set to increase to 13 inches. This is according to the Elec. Both will be an OLED this time, with Samsung supplying the 11-inch model and LG supplying the display for the 13-inch model. The iPad is also said to be much thinner, and if true, I would hope it would be made out of maybe a different material such as titanium for rigidity, as this device can be easily folded in half if you're not careful. According to 9to5Mac, they have the exact dimensions you can see here, where it looks like it would be about 1.5 millimeters thinner, which is pretty incredible since that's about 1/6 of what it currently is. So it would get a little bit thinner, about the same size overall, a little bit wider, and a little bit taller, but a little bit thinner in general. So hopefully it's a little bit stronger. We're also expecting updates to iPad mini as well, along with MacBook Air that just gets an update to the M3 processor. So we currently have the M2, it would just get a bump to the M3. Now, we're also waiting for AirPods Max to be updated. And while I use AirPods Pro all the time, AirPods Max are great, but they seem to be left behind a little bit. According to a Weibo user, Instant Digital, he's claimed that AirPods Max will release this year, but not have the latest features that the AirPods Pro 2 have, such as maybe adaptive audio features. So that may be pushed off until a little bit later. However, Apple continues to experiment with new designs and new features, and this week we heard a few different things. That they may be working on a smart ring, such as this Ultra Human ring, where it can measure your heart rate and more if you don't want to wear a watch, or possibly they're working on smart glasses and AirPods with cameras built in. These are things they've worked on in the past. However, the smart ring may still be able to be something that's released, or maybe not. We don't really know, but according to the Electronic Times and Mark Gurman, Apple has worked on all of these different things in the past. So it looks like we could see some updates in the future, whether it's a ring or something else, we don't really know. And finally, HomePod with a display has long been rumored at this point, and even in iOS 17.4 betas, we had a hint of a new HomeOS. That was rumored to launch with such a device, and Mark Gurman said we can expect that sort of device in 2025 at the soonest. So we won't see that for quite some time. It looks like Apple's still working on some sort of home hub integration or something else, but it will be a while until we see it. So lots of different news about different products coming soon. I'm looking forward to the March event in iOS 18 in June at WWDC. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below. I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.